I focus on four aspects. Number one, why education is important in accelerating the development process of a country. Number two, what do we mean by quality education? Number three, in terms of SDP, where exactly our country stands. Next, where exactly Karnataka stands. And finally, I wish to wind up my lecture by drawing the attention of all the participants to an important aspect, namely how we can make economic teaching of economics qualitative. So this is the broad outline of my lecture. You are free to interrupt me. You are absolutely free to ask me questions. I'm sure that some of my past students are also participating here because I was teaching economics for a very long time in Mysore University. Anyway, let me start with the question. What is the relationship between education and economic development? As students of economics, when we start studying development economics, we start with the contributions of ancient economists, say physiocrats, mercantilists, Adam Smith, David Ricardo, Thomas Robert Malthus, J.B. Say, etc., the classical economists. So all these economists, they emphasized that the wealth of a nation depends upon, for physiocrats, it depends upon a particular aspect. For mercantilists, it was business. For economists like Smith and others, it was purely trade, free trade amongst various countries. And these aspects were stressed by these economists. But they forgot that there is another aspect for development process, that is human capital. All these economists whom I mentioned, whether it is mercantilists, physiocrats, or classical economists, they emphasized only on physical capital, and they thought that physical capital acts or accelerates the development process. Later on, Schulz was an economist who emphasized that there is another aspect which contributes for the development process, which is totally neglected by earlier economists, and that is human capital. So he brought to the fore the importance of human capital, and to be precise, the three contributing factors in human capital, which is qualitative in nature. We have quantitative variables and qualitative variables which we need to analyze when we speak in terms of understanding the development process. Quantitative variables are easy to handle. You see, we measure them exactly, whether it is demand or supply or capital. We can measure them exactly, and we can subject them to mathematics also very easily. We can build models, econometric models, using the quantitative variables. It's not that difficult. I can very easily calculate or build a model to tell what should be the level of production of a particular firm which wants to maximize its profit. But when it comes to qualitative variables, it's very difficult to quantify them directly. So we have to take resort to what we call as proxy variables or instrumental variables. And with the help of these variables, we can think in terms of measuring these variables and their contribution to the economic aspects. So Schulz pointed out
Sir,
that, yes.
Sorry for interruption, sir. Your PPT is not shared, sir.
Pardon?
Your PPT is not shared, sir.
No, I don't have a PPT.
Okay, sir.
So, Schulz pointed out that there are three important aspects. Now, if you desire, I will share my notes to you later on, notes of my lecture.
So, okay, sir.
Okay. The three important qualitative inputs that he brought to the fore are number one, education, health, and on the job training. He tried to measure the contribution of these three items to the development process. These are qualitative in nature and extremely difficult to measure directly, like capital or profit or any other quantitative variable. Anyway, he was able to analyze very systematically the contribution of these variables, qualitative variables, and their contribution to the development process. So now, of course, lot of literature is developed, and we can very easily understand the importance of education, health, and on-the-job training, and what is the role of these in making a country move forward. So anyway, at this point, I should mention that education plays a very important role, and it contributes for the development process of a country. And it is extremely important for any nation to pay adequate attention for the progress of education, health, and training, if at all it wants to move forward at a fast speed. So this aspect was emphasized by many economists, many social scientists in due course of time, and the world attention was also drawn towards this. So the UN thought in terms of setting forth goals for these variables along with other important aspects of development. So the Sustainable Development Goals, also known as global goals, were adopted by the United Nations in September 2015 as part of 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So this was the first attempt at the global level to list out in great detail the various aspects of development, sustainable development, and why every country on the globe should pay adequate attention towards these variables. Now, the UN in its SDG set forth 17 interlinked goals to be achieved by all the nations of the globe by 2030. So, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development was laid down in great detail, and it was mentioned that in order to ensure that all the people enjoy peace and prosperity, every nation has to achieve these goals by 2030. Very important point here is, as economists, when we go through these goals, the 17 goals, which I will briefly list out, we find a very interesting thing, that is, all these goals are economic in nature basically. They're closely related with the science of economics. So we can link up these variables with economics, And we can also build models on each of these goals very easily in terms of econometric models. And a lot of research has gone into this, and we have vast literature on SDG. Now, what do we mean by sustainable development? All of you must are very familiar by now, because that happens to be the major topic. Not only that, we should enjoy the fruits of development, but the future generation should also be in a position to enjoy this. We should not vacate, we should not see that all resources are emptied and the future generation will face a blank situation. That should not happen. That's why it speaks in terms of sustainable development, and future generation should also be in a position to reap the benefits of what we have developed. So it listed out 17 goals. To briefly note that, because I mentioned that they have close bearing with economics, I will briefly list out these goals. So number one, there should not be poverty at all in any nation by 2030. Please keep an eye on these goals, because you will very easily discern that it has close bearing on economics, each one of these. And one should be a very good economist to understand, analyze, and build models relating to these goals. So it's very easy to grasp, because each one of these goals is directly related with economic science. No poverty, that's we should end the poverty by 2030. There should not be hunger, and there should be good health. And number four, on which I would be elaborating, is the quality education. So quality, what it means, I will come to that later. And gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, and then responsible consumption and production. You just see how it is related with economics. Climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, partnerships for goals. These are the goals of SDP, which need to be reached by all the countries of the world. So, as I repeatedly pointed out, if you closely observe these goals, you will notice that it has close bearing with economic science, and we as economists will be in a position to understand the interlinkages of these, and also study, analyze, do research on these aspects, and also bring out the importance of economic theories and how we can theorize these goals and also actually achieve these goals, or try to achieve these goals with the help of very sharp economic theories that we can develop. So now I will not go into all these goals, because I wish to concentrate on SDP 4, that is quality education. Now, as we know very well, quantification of a variable is quite easy, as I mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, many economic variables are quantifiable. That is why we have econometrics, we have mathematical economics, we have econometric models. So all these were possible because many economic variables are absolutely quantifiable. Once we say that it is quantifiable, we can subject them very easily to mathematical laws and develop mathematical models with great ease and facility, particularly with the help of computers that we have, the softwares that we have. We can think in terms of building quantitative models relating to quantifiable variables. Nevertheless, we can also build models relating to qualitative variables by using proxy variables very easily for education, for health, for training. All these can be brought into the quantifiable world, but we cannot directly do that. We have to develop many tools to translate the qualitative variables into quantitative variables and then develop the models purely in terms of quantitative variables. A lot of research has gone into this, and we have many models relating to education, health, etc., etc. So anyway, my focus today is on uh, education, quality education. So all of us know that it's not easy for us to speak authoritatively on a quality education because it has lots of bearings, and there is scope for interpretation as to what exactly we mean by quality education. So anyway, we have to bring it within a framework so that we can analyze. We should develop markers, and then we should try to measure the progress in quality education. And the attempts have been made to develop these markers both at the country level as well as global level. Now, what exactly we mean by quality education? Now, as I mentioned to you, the interpretation is quite wide. Nevertheless, if we can bring it within the framework of an analysis, we can say that quality education is a multifaceted concept that goes beyond simply providing access to schools. It's a holistic approach that aims to foster the social, emotional, mental, physical, and cognitive development of every student. A quality education is not just about achieving high test scores. We measure we measure a student on the basis of how much marks he scores, but that's not quality education. Um, a student who is scoring very high marks may not qualify himself when we ask the question whether he has acquired a quality education. We will just see about it later on. Actually, it is about equipping individuals with the knowledge, skills, and values. I stress the values they need to thrive in a rapidly changing world and contribute positively to the society. So, this is what exactly we mean by quality education. It's not just scores. It's not just the number of schools that we have, the number of colleges that we have, etc., etc. I'll come to that point later on. Therefore, the key components of quality education, we may say that it includes how the students are learning, whether the learning is healthy, well nourished, and motivate the students to achieve certain degrees of values which will develop their personality to the fullest extent. So, if we try to understand quality education, the content of what we teach should be relevant and well structured that imparts essential skills to the students. At the basic level, by skills we mean its literacy and numeracy and critical life skills, and knowledge in areas such as gender equality, health, and peace. So when we say that we have imparted quality education, what are the markers which can make us understand that a student is well equipped with the quality education? So the learning should be measurable. The measurable learning outcomes that encompass not just academic knowledge, but also skills and attitudes aligning with national education goals, because many countries have they have set up the national education goals. How we have equipped our students to reach these goals becomes an important question. And also the children should be in a position to positively participate in the activities of the society. So he should become a part of the society. He should be aware. He should become aware that he is part of the society once we say that he has received quality education. So I will come to economics, science in particular at a later stage. And also when we say that we are imparting quality education to the children, how much we have equipped them in terms of equity and inclusivity also becomes an important question, particularly in a society like ours. So a commitment to providing equal access and opportunities for all learners should be created in any economy, regardless of their gender, race, ethnicity, socio-economic status, or disability. So this includes addressing biases and creating an environment where all students feel valued and supported. So in 2015, the goals were set by the UN, and periodically reviews have been made to assess whether what is the level of progress of the countries in the world regarding achieving these goals. Now, assessments have been made at the global level, at the country level, at the state level also. So UN has has reviewed the progress periodically at the global level, and every country, many of the countries have attempted, including India. Every country has made an attempt to find out where exactly it stands in terms of achieving these goals, and even the state governments have paid attention to this. So let us try to understand where exactly the country stand, Indian economy stands, India stands, and also state of Karnataka stands in terms of achieving these goals. Since 2015, a lot of progress has taken place in the area of education. I will not emphasize the quality education, the achievements in terms of quality education at the global level, because it is extremely difficult to measure that. Anyway, we will use the dummy variables to understand and try to translate it in terms of quality education. So most countries are off track to meet education targets for access, completion, and learning outcomes. Since 2015, if we speak in terms of numbers, 109 million more children and youth have entered schools, with completion rates rising for all levels. At all levels, the school entry has increased. So global completion rates in 2024, that's last year, has reached 88, 78, 60% for primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary education respectively. They are all up from 85, 74, and 53% in 2015 respectively. In particular, girls now exceed boys by 2 to 3 percentage point at all levels. However, progress has decelerated. Upper secondary completion rate slowed from 1.3 percentage points annually to 0.8 percentage points. Meanwhile, the out-of-school population increased by 3% since 2015, leaving, is very important, leaving 272 million children and youth still out of school worldwide. This is a very big number, 272 million. Besides, disparities remain stark. 36% of school-aged children and youth in low-income countries are out of school, compared to only 3% in high-income countries, and over half of them live in sub-Saharan Africa. Learning quality remains a major concern. Quality remains a major concern. This is what we are worried about. So, the percentage in terms of enrollment might have increased, but what is the quality of the students remains a big question. Learning quality remains a major concern all over the world. Globally, the minimum proficiency of primary students stands at just 58% in reading and 44% in mathematics. Among 81 upper, middle, and high income countries with the data, the percentage of students achieving minimum proficiency at the end of lower secondary education declined between 2018 and 2022 by 15 percentage points in mathematics and by 10 percentage points in reading. So, at the global level, this is the situation. In the modern world, usage of internet is very important, and the surveys do point out to this aspect also. So, information and communication technology, ICT skills, which are essential for economic and social well-being, is assessed based on recently performed tasks that reflect digital proficiency in 5 areas: information and data literacy, communication and collaboration, digital content creation, safety, and problem solving. Data from 40 countries, mostly high and upper middle income, show communication and collaboration as the most common digital skills. 83% of internet users have at least basic proficiency, followed by information and data literacy, which is 76%, problem solving 70%, content creation 60%, and safety 57%. Despite a high median rate for internet usage, which is 90%, many lack essential skills, highlighting a significant gap between access and the ability to use the internet effectively and safely. So this is the situation as far as the global picture is concerned. Progress in early childhood education is limited in the globe itself, and gender disparities continue. This is a basic concern, and basic school infrastructure, that also leaves a big gap in the world situation, in the world picture. Now, let me come to India's situation, Indian case, because global picture, we can't grasp the country-wise situation by just reviewing the global situation, because it's macro in nature, as all of us know. If you want to know the situation in a particular country, we have to dig deep into it. And by and large, the developed countries are reaching the goals. They are nearer to goals, and they will reach, most probably they will reach these goals by 2030. But the major concern is about the developing countries. and in particular the sub-Saharan and African countries where the situation is terribly dark and terribly bad. Now, let us not try to understand those macro aspects because of the time limit. But one thing which I want to stress at this point is lot of research has gone into this. Lot of literature is available on SDG, and we can dig into it very easily. Both qualitative research, research in terms of quantitative variables, as well as qualitative variables are available, and we can very easily get the picture of any country, any particular country, with the help of Chat GPT or any AI. Without much difficulty, we can very easily grasp the situation of a particular country. Now, let us try to understand what are the problems that we are facing in India to reach the goals, and also in Karnataka. Now, as far as India is concerned, India's education system continues to struggle with critical gaps in foundational literacy and numeracy, teacher training, and financing, even as it shows consistent gains in gender parity, school completion rates, and digital infrastructure. As per the 2025 UNESCO SDG4 scorecard, the country remains off track in upper secondary and tertiary participation, lags behind global spending benchmarks, and has significant shortfalls in training qualified pre-primary teachers, though it has nearly universalized primary and lower secondary education and is improving internet connectivity in schools. India's performance on foundational learning is a key area of concern, with a report saying that countries, including India, are off track by 11 percentage points from the benchmark for achieving minimum reading proficiency by the end of primary education. India's benchmark for this indicator is 56%, but the actual achievement is substantially lower. In contrast, high-income countries reported reading proficiency levels nearing 99%, while South Asia's regional average stood at 49%. The large gap is likely result of limited experience in setting realistic targets on learning outcomes, which reflect low data availability. Now, we are lagging behind in many areas as far as achieving quality education. Now, out of school rate in India is 4% at primary level, 8% at lower secondary level, and 21% at upper secondary level. And foundational literacy, that is reading proficiency at the end of primary, is 56%, off track by 11 percentage point. Foundational numeracy in India is only 51%. That is proficiency in maths at the end of primary level. Primary completion rate is only 92% in our country, which of course is a satisfactory one, but lower secondary is 84%, upper secondary completion rate is only 67%. Out of school, many children are out of school who are between 15 and 17 years. 21% of this age group, 15 to 17, is out of school. There is still gender gap, 2 to 3 percentage point behind the benchmark. Pre-primary teacher training is, of course, 88%. Education spending is one of the lowest. It is just 3.1%. We will come to that because many research has gone into what should be the percentage that should be earmarked in budget for education. Very unfortunately, our country has not taken care about this particular aspect because it still remains only at 3.1% so of GDP. But as a percentage of total public expenditure, it's around 12%. And school internet connectivity is very low in our country. And participation in early childhood education is 84%. So minimum learning proficiency is awful. It is not up to the mark at all at the primary level. So this is the situation. So India's public expenditure on education is just 3.1% of GDP in 2023, which is below the SDG mark of 4% and far from the national education policy's aspiration of 6%. Our education policy aspired to spend 6% of GDP, but unfortunately, it is just half of that, 3.1%. So this places India below the South Asian average of 3.4%. So if we take the expenditure on education in the South Asian region, it averages to 3.4%, but whereas our countries is only 3.1%, which is significantly behind. It is so compared to the high-income countries. It's much more obvious. In high-income countries, we see that nearly 5 to 5.5% of GDP is spent on education. Therefore, our scorecard shows that countries moving backward in terms of public education spending have recorded very slow progress in the area of education. India has also not met its trained pre-primary teachers. The foundation for education is laid at the primary level. So unless strong foundation is laid at the primary level, we cannot expect good students at higher levels. And all of us are experiencing this. Teaching graduate students, we know their standards. Every time we are very much concerned with that. We will worry about it later on. So India's primary and lower secondary completion rates, of course, strong, but the 2025 benchmark for completion remains far off, respectively placing India at a lower level in the global picture. So this is the situation as far as the Indian economy is concerned, and we are too far off from the point of reaching the targets of TSD goals. Now, what about Karnataka? Where do we stand? How do we compare ourselves? Karnataka has made significant progress towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, integrating them into its development policies and strategies, but still we face ongoing challenges, particularly with reference to Goal 4, that is quality education. Karnataka is ranked 5th among major Indian states as revealed by the survey conducted by Niti Aayog. So Niti Aayog STG India Index, with its score rising from 72 in 2021 to 75 in 2023-24, makes us happy because our state is progressing in terms of quality education. Across 11 key goals, the state has improved, particularly in healthcare, clean water, and climate action. But in education, we remain backward. Still, there is a long way to go in terms of quality education. Because according to Karnataka's 23-24 state outcome budget and the latest STG India index, the state scored 78 on STG 4, signaling good but not outstanding progress towards ensuring inclusive and quality education for all. However, another recent assessment places Karnataka at 10th among Indian states for its provision of quality education, implying room for a lot of improvement in this area. So the data highlights Adjusted net enrollment rate in elementary education in our state is 85.54%. Annual dropout rate at secondary level is 26.18 against 7.67 targeted. Gross enrollment rate in higher education is only 28.8% against 50%. So we have number of challenges in our state also. So a recent independent review found Karnataka is still lagging behind in education with a score of 63 for STG 4 in a Center for Science and Environment Analysis, well below the target met threshold of 100. Challenges persist in reducing dropout rates, improving proficiency outcomes, increasing digital access, and rising gross enrollment in higher secondary and higher education. Despite the improvements, urgent actions are needed in our state for equitable quality education access, especially in rural and marginalized communities. So this is where Karnataka stands. So to put it in a nutshell, I should mention that we have a very long way to travel in terms of achieving the goal, the sustainable development goal in terms of quality education. So all of us are aware of this because we are all teachers and we are aware that quantity is quite impressive. The students entering the primary level, at the primary level, high school level, or PUC level, or graduation level, or at the post-graduation level is quite significant in our country. But when it comes to the question of quality, naturally we are terribly disappointed. And I wish to concentrate on how we can improve the quality of teaching in economics at the graduate level as well as at the postgraduate level. Now, I stop for a few minutes at this particular point because if you have any point to make, then I will move on to teaching of economics, how to achieve quality in teaching of economics. I stop for a while, about 2 to 3 minutes.
So good morning.
Good morning.
So this is participant 38. So this is regarding the views, a small discussion, kind of like talking about the quality, like with regard to the pre-primary educational level and the quality at that, because we need a proper base to
Yeah,
excel in quality.
right.
So what are your views regarding that, and what can be done, because that base has to be strengthened first in order to achieve quality, towards only then we can move on to higher levels of quality. So what do you think, or what do you consider of those, your views on that, sir?
Yeah. So at the of course, as you mentioned, the challenges are at the grassroots level, that is at the primary level. Now, a lot of attention has been paid to improve the quality at the basic level. Now, as you know, uh, there is a need for focusing on foundational education. So, at the uh, primary level, the students should be taught well, particularly language proficiency is very important. And as you know, there is a lot of confusion in this area, even in our state, whether it should be a two-language formula or whether it should be a three-language formula. Now, if you observe the students who are really good, you notice that they have the foundation of 2 to 3 languages. You observe any student at the graduate level who is really good, and you observe that he is quite strong in terms of language. So, solid foundation has to be laid in making the students at the primary level to become proficient in language and also in mathematics, because mathematics happens to be the foundation for learning many things. Therefore, the focus should be on that. So first of all, if you come to our state, we notice that we are facing lots of difficulties in terms of not learning language properly at the basic level. They are not proficient either in English or in Kannada. So the new education policy very clearly points out, please make them proficient in regional language first. So teach everything through the regional language, lay a solid foundation in regional language to the students. Then make them learn NEP. You see, you make them learn three languages, there is no harm. So let them learn English in proper sense of the word. Now, the difficulty that we are facing right now is that they are not proficient in English, which is very much needed both at the national level and also at the global level. So make them learn English properly. So solid foundation has to be laid to make the children learn English properly. This is a Herculean task because the teacher should be trained well to teach the English language properly. It's not an easy language because it's a foreign language, all said and done. So only those who are proficiency in English can teach English properly, and we should train the teachers. When we speak in terms of teachers training, it should be in terms of language, and language happens to be the basis for this. So we should lay both at the government schools as well as at the private schools. Proper foundation has to be laid in English. That's very important. And unless they are trained well at that particular level, it becomes impossible for them to enter into the global competition. So if the idea of education is to link the economy with the global economy, because that is one of the objectives that we have, we should make our children globally fit, not locally fit. If you want to make the children globally fit, then make them learn the tools that are necessary for this. These tools are, maybe it is language, maybe it is mathematics, maybe it is the digital expertise. So this has to be taken care of. Very unfortunately, our planning for education is not systematic. It's very, very unsystematic because we see even today there is shortage of number of schools, there is shortage of teachers, there is shortage of language teachers, and all these problems are there. And there is tremendous attraction for private education. Government schools are, at the primary level, government primary schools are not attractive. So attention has to be paid by the state government to strengthen the primary education. Now, as economists, what we see is there is no proper planning. Now, we should build models, econometric models, to show to the government how many primary schools we require for the number of population that we have. How many primary schools, how many high schools, how many PU colleges, how many first degree colleges, how many postgraduate colleges we need. That has to be planned. So manpower planning is not there at all. So mushrooming of schools at the urban areas, and tremendous disappointment for the people who are at the lowest level, who have no access to education, is a very big problem for us. So we have to bridge this, and as economists, it is our duty to plan for this and tell the government that this is the number of primary schools that we require, this is the number of high schools that we require, infrastructure we require, this many computers. This is not there. This is one major handicap that we have. So the right from the primary level, the education sector has to be set right. Otherwise, it is very difficult. As teachers of at the graduate level, we feel that 80%, 80 to 90% of the students are not in a position to learn what we teach. There is a big gap. So what we are teaching, there are many questions. Quality of education, particularly I speak with reference to economics. We teach economics. So how many students grasp this, number one? How many teachers put this theory into practice, number two? And what is the relevance of economics that we are teaching to the day-to-day world or building the economy is the third question that we have. So these are the most complicated questions that we have to answer when it comes to the question of quality education. So solid foundation has to be laid at the lowest, at the grassroots level, and then we should build up slowly. So if you look at the US education system or Japanese education system or UK education system, you see this. So they develop critical thinking and they have skills. They know what to do. They know they're taught to think properly and decide what they want to become. All these things that we observe in Western education. But this is lacking in our country, and this is the major problem that we have to encounter. Okay, so I'll go back and put my thoughts relating to how the quality of teaching of economics can be thought of, how it can be improved upon. Now, what we see is we are not updating our curriculum at all, which fits into the global system. So we have to update and revise our curriculum to reflect the current economic realities and also the global economic realities. This is absolutely needed if we want to make economics attractive. Now, most of you know economics is being relegated to background. The number of students who are majoring in economics is falling drastically. At the postgraduate level, it's falling very drastically, particularly at the university level. We notice that the number of students seeking admission to economics is falling. So many of the colleges have closed down MA in economics because there are no students. So there is demand for economics in metropolitan cities, as I see, because I sit on many admission committees. Maybe in Bangalore, Ambedkar Institute of Economics, there is a lot of rush to study economics. Maybe Bombay School of Economics or Delhi School of Economics. In all these places, we see tremendous rush to study economics. But whereas at the state level, at the non-metropolitan areas, the students who are seeking economics, who wish to major economics, that number is falling drastically because of various reasons. And as I pointed out to you, our syllabus is outdated. We are not linking it with current realities. So we have to modernize economics curriculum to focus on critical thinking, problem solving, and analytical skills relevant to today's economic challenges. So the theories that we are teaching inside the class, they should become more relevant to the students. So unless we do that, it will not attract the students. Now that's one thing. Now till recently, economics was thought of as an independent discipline. No longer it is so. If you observe worldwide, globally, you notice that it is an interdisciplinary subject. It requires a lot of interdisciplinary approach. A student who wants to excel in economics should also study sociology, psychology to some extent, and he should be aware of course, mathematics and statistics. So solid foundation has to be laid at the graduate level. One who wants to study economics, he should learn mathematics compulsorily. Now, he should know all the approaches for an economic theory. Say, for example, I want to teach demand, the law of demand. How do I make it qualitative? Now, if you want to make it qualitative, you should teach demand theory through all the three approaches. Number one, theory, of course. We say that all other things remaining constant, the quantity demanded of a commodity is inversely related with its price, fine. That's theory. But ask the student to generate a demand schedule. Ask him to plot it on the blackboard. See how the graph works out, whether it is a linear function or a non-linear function. He should be able to distinguish the demand curve and should understand whether a demand curve should always be a straight line or whether it can be curvilinear. What is the significance of a straight line demand curve? What is its relevance in terms of curvilinear? He should be able to analyze this. That is the geometric approach. And the mathematical approach should also be taught to him. He should be able to develop a demand theory. Maybe QD is equal to A minus BP. So a straight line, what does it imply? How we can draw a non-straight line or a curvilinear function, non-linear function. What's the distinction between a linear function and a non-linear function? He should be in a position to understand and analyze it in the classroom. So all the theories should be taught in all these three ways, and he will be able to understand and appreciate this approach. So if we just teach the theory and tell him, say, in a routine way, okay, in a routine way, we state the law of demand, we state the exception to the law of demand and limitations to the theory of law of demand, that takes him nowhere. What's the real situation? How we can develop a demand curve for a tomato market? So when we teach that, we should make it interesting. Not only that, he should be aware of all these three approaches. A student of economics should be good both in geometry as well as in algebra. So unless he is aware of these three approaches to a particular theory, it's not just demand theory, it may be any other theory for that matter. It may be law of supply, it may be the law of diminishing marginal utility, or it may be consumer surplus. Whatever may be the theory, the student should be aware of all these three approaches, and he should come to the blackboard. He should demonstrate a particular law of demand, and he should solve a problem also. We should give him a law of demand and a law of supply and ask him to find the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity and mark it on the graph or mark it on the blackboard. So unless he is made to actively participate in the classroom, economics will never become interesting. He will treat this subject just like other subjects, a theory oriented, a descriptive one, and then it gains no purpose. So this is very important. And when we speak of, the most important aspect of making economics interesting, qualitative, is that he should be in a position to relate it with the real situation. So give him an assignment wherein he will go to the market or go to a particular place, collects data on the price of tomato, let us say, and the quantity demanded of, let it be a homework for him. Let him come back to the class with a schedule, demand schedule or a supply schedule, and understand its real situation. What is its real application in the market? How the equilibrium is attained in the market, he should be in a position to understand. So this actually means interactive teaching method. Now, gone are the days
Hello.
Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Now
Yes,
you
sir.
are audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now audible, sir. Now.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this means that we should adopt new methods. We should adopt innovative and interactive teaching techniques, and we should get equipped for this. As teachers, we should get equipped for this. And uh, I suggest to Dr. Mahesh that when we conduct such orientation programs, our teachers should be trained as to how they can develop interactive teaching techniques. What's going on in US, what's going on in Australia, what's going on in other countries as far as teaching of economics is concerned, they treat this as an experimental economics. So they conduct the students conduct experiments, maybe to test the demand law or to test the supply law and learn economics. So it should be innovative and interactive. And as teachers, if we can make our subject innovative and interactive, it can attract more and more number of students. So a lot of things can be done to make our subject very dynamic, and students should be given practical exposure. So they should actually work on the problems that we give. So it's not sufficient if we just teach them in the class about maybe the law of demand or maybe the law of supply, and we should ask them to work out problems related to these and try to understand the ground realities, because the ground realities are totally different from what we teach. So in the classroom, we may teach that supply and demand, when they interact with each other, the equilibrium price is determined. But when the student goes to the market or to a tomato dealer or a tomato vendor, and if he finds out the price level, day-to-day fluctuation in price level, then he will try to question that. He will definitely ask me a question as to what's the relevance of your teaching to my day-to-day life, day-to-day demand, day-to-day supply. The equilibrium is not attained at all in the way that you are teaching inside the class. The actual attainment of equilibrium is totally different. So what is this difference? How economic theories can be adjusted to explain these differences should be thought of. And inside the class, we should give room for debates among the students. They should express, the greatest difficulty that we have now is that it's a monologue. I teach, the students take down the notes, they repeat it in the exam, again we give them good marks, they come out in a very colorful manner. But when an economics graduate comes to the market, he doesn't find a job because he is not well equipped. He can't maximize, he doesn't know the technique of maximizing a profit of a particular firm. He doesn't know the technique of minimizing the cost of a particular product. He doesn't know the advertisement techniques. He is not exposed to this. He is not taught during the course of 3 years which he has spent learning economics at the graduate level. Never has been taught, he has been taught to the practical realities. Therefore, it's important for our as teachers, we should allow them to debate things inside the class and try to solve their doubts inside the class relating to the subject of economics. So this is absolutely important now, because the world of economics is changing. The teaching techniques are changing, and the modern techniques are totally different from the Oriental techniques that we had. Now, the next question is relating to the policy. You see, we speak many things about economic inequality, the social injustices. Now, when we speak in terms of economic inequality, the student should be in a position to understand what is this economic inequality, what exactly we mean by this, how economic inequality is generated? What's the source? What's the solution? Next, the government policies which are aiming at bringing down the economic inequality, are they relevant? Can we apply them to the day-to-day situation? What is the understanding of the student relating to this? What he knows about economic inequality? So this becomes important for a student of economics. Unless we address this and address many other socio-economic problems inside the class, the regional disparities inside the class, it becomes extremely difficult for us to make economics very relevant and interesting. This is what they do in advanced schools, and that is why economics is quite interesting. And that's why economics attracts so many students in these institutions. So by combining curriculum reform, innovative pedagogy, improved teaching techniques, resource enhancement, and student-centric experience learning, this is very important. And only through this, we can impart quality undergraduate economics education. So unless we do that, it's very difficult for economics to survive in future days to come. So this is what we mean by quality education. Quantitative expansion is easy. We can count the number of graduates. We can now count the number of colleges. We can count the number of teachers that are recruited, but it does not improve the quality of education. It does not make our country to get into the global system very easily, match itself with the global situation. So these are the areas which we have to concentrate to improve the quality education. Of course, at the government level, many efforts are made to measure the quality education and compare it with the world situation and speak about the sustainable development goals, whether we have achieved this or not. That aspect is okay. But at the ground level, as teachers of economics, we should concentrate on improving quality education in economics, which economics happens to be the foundation for all other subjects, which is interdisciplinary in nature, which is essential for each and every person. So I don't think any person can decline the knowledge of economics. Every person has to be equipped with economics, basic economics, and we should equip our students to become competent at the world arena, because as you know, economics is an international subject and we can enter the portals of any country if we are well equipped in terms of our knowledge of economics. So we should improve the quality of teaching economics, and these are some of the hints that I have given. So in a sense, I should say that sustainable development goals are spelled out by the World Bank, and every country is trying to achieve it. And we are sure that with the progress that we are making in our country, I am very sure that we will also achieve these goals. But quantitative achievement is not of that significance. Qualitative achievement is very necessary, and as teachers, we shall try to contribute our might to improve the quality education. So this is a very vast area, and I have tried to rush up, and I have tried to jump from one point to another point at a very quick speed, and I hope all of us will put our efforts to improve the quality education of economics in particular. I thank everyone who